Hi, welcome to MESH-ROOF-2 roof section 4.1, and we've just built this surface which we're completely happy with. As you can see, it has the same highlights as the mesh, and as we know, it's within close tolerances, acceptable tolerances. So there's a few things that I want to show you before we move on to do the front screen. Firstly, we need to check that our boundaries are nice and true, and we do that with the curvature cone, which is very, very, very important. You'll hear me say that all the time. Very important tool. It's beautifully planar. You see that? Because don't forget, we planarized the hull in the last video, and that's exactly what we want. Next, I want to check the other boundaries. And this one, you can see, is not planar, so we need to fix that. So I'll show you how to do that. We're going to planarize it between ends, so put your point of focus there and turn it so that you're looking directly down the plane that you want to achieve, and then take the Planarize Hull tool and hey presto, it's that simple. And there it is. Beautiful, isn't it? So that's how you planarize the hull, preparing it for the next stage. As you become more experienced at Alias, you may want to develop this curve here to make it more compatible with the blend. And you see I've got one straight edge there in top, and I've got one curved. But if you want to develop a slightly curved edge to promote a better blend and better highlights, then you can do that with the Planarize CV tool by just changing the angle. Instead of looking down the plane like that, you just move it to, say, there, with your point of focus there, and then take the Planarize Hull tool and zap it. And then if you look at it again in F5, you'll see you've achieved what you needed. Okay, next thing I want to talk to you about is, incidentally, I've put in CVs here since the last video, and the reason I've done that is nothing to do with this surface. It's to give us a 5-degree surface single span to build our cant rail surfaces onto. Just from experience, I know that there's more chance of them working straight off the bat if you have a degree 5 surface rather than a degree 3 or degree 4. So that's a matter of personal preference, but that's the way that I model. Now, next thing is I want to show you how to do the same job that we did in video 4.0, but this time with using the cross-section editor to position our surface rather than the shader to shader and the deviation map shader. So okay, let's do that. So what we're going to do is we'll get this surface out of the view for the moment. So I've just put it in object display invisible for the moment. F5. Okay, we can't see the mesh, so we need a bit of opacity there. I'm going to put the grid on just for the moment. Let's take a planar surface the same as we did. Let's take a planar surface the same as we did in the first video, and we'll curve snap it to there. Something like that. Go to F8. And we can't put cross sections on a flat surface, so what we need to do is go into Transform CV, and this time I'm not going to use NUV because it's too big a distance and it distorts the hulls. So I'm going to use XYZ, which is actually probably better. And I'm going to start I'm going to turn the sensitivity down Okay, and we can do this in F6 because it's actually easier to see what we're doing. And also another thing I like to use is, on my keyboard it happens to be dialed in as Control L, and this is a fantastic visual mode to work in. So it allows me to pick the hull there and see what I'm doing here, and work a lot quicker like that. So I suggest you do preferences hotkeys and set up something similar. Our next job is to pick a hull in this direction, and then we must remember to switch on symmetrical model, and if we don't, then we've ruined our model. Then we're ready to go, and we start. Pulling the model down. If you've got a small computer, as I said to you in the last video, you can just come up here and you can suspend rebuilds. When you do that, you get this blue icon with a line through it to tell you. And now that needs to come up. And I'm looking at the mesh here, and you notice that the other side is not updating. But don't panic. And down here. So that's as close as we can get to the mesh without putting in extra rows of CV, because we're going to have if I can just zoom in a bit, we're going to have a gap there, and we can't really improve on that. That's as far as we can go. If we want the acceleration that these designers got on the edge of the roof there, we have to put in more CVs. So let's do that, and we're going to go to, so that's in the V direction, we're going to go to degree 5, and then we'll pull out the hull, so it's slide both hulls, and if we zoom in here a bit, you can see why we need the hull there. And in fact I'm going to move that in a bit, it's a bit too outboard. Right, probably where they are now is about, I think that's about it. So the point of this, one of the points of this tutorial 4.1 is to show you how we use cross sections to find our distance from the mesh. So we pick object, pick both entities, and come down here and get the cross-section editor, and I'll show you how to set this up. So first of all, we don't want any curvature cones, but we do want all the sections on. Now that gives us a lot of information to look at, and whereas an experienced modeler can cope with that quite easily, for a beginner I don't recommend that you have all those sections switched on. So what you can do, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time now showing you, but I'll just show you the basics, and you can go away and experiment on your own. So for example, let's have a look at the X sections. We don't want all these sections here, and we don't want these sections here. So this is 0, this is the origin here, 0. So if you come back, this is positive and this is negative. So let's come down here to X and uncheck auto range, and we're going to start at, say, 1000 back. Well, actually it's already almost set up, isn't it? So let's go to 600 back from the origin. We'll go to 550, and that gives us a section right where we need it. So that's fine. Let's just check to see, well look, the section is beyond the surface, so we need to bring that in a bit. Go to 1450 and that should do it. Yeah, so that's put the section, made it usable to us. Okay, so that's how you adjust the sections. And let's go to Y, and in Y you'll see that I've already done it, and I've just adjusted the sections that I need. Then in Z I've adjusted it so that I've only got the sections that I need for my surface. So that makes life a lot easier. So get rid of that and go back here and push down the control key and switch on all your sections. So that is the information that we're going to use to help us to locate our surface against the mesh accurately. Right, so let's zoom in. Now once again, we don't need the mesh to be visible. So we have the green lines are on the surface, the cross-section lines, and the brown lines are on the mesh. We take our mesh and start to pull CVs. Okay, we'll start here, and I want you to watch the relationship of the green line to the brown line, which is basically pulling the surface towards the cross section. And you can't do this one CV at a time. You know, you can't do it all on one CV. You've got to think globally. Think of all the CVs as being in a team. See here, we're a long way from the cross section, and there we are. This one here, I'll zoom in a bit for you, and you see here that this CV needs to come down a touch, not too much, and it's actually that CV. Use the nudge keys, far more accurate, and it's this CV here that I have to move. Now I could do this with the deviation map on, but it's clearer for video purposes. It's clearer if I do it like this. You can see what I'm doing. So I'm pulling CVs until I get the two sets of cross-sectional curves to occupy the same space. Now let's go over to the deviation map, set it up to acceptable distance 1 and ramp distance 2, and you see that we are very close. Okay, so blue means we've got to go up, and red means we've got to go down. So let's pick CV and NUV this time. Maybe I'll move in XYZ so that I don't distort my boundaries. Let's try that. I think that's a better idea. I'll just bring that up. Check that I've got my sensitivity on. I have to use the right mouse button. It's a bit confusing switching from NUV to XYZ. Now we need to bring this down, so we're looking for the point. It's that one there, and perhaps this one. So we could just try moving those two together. Okay, and do the rest with the nudge keys. I'm not going to do the whole thing on this video. The deviation map goes off, you just set it up again, quite simple. We have a low spot here which we may be able to pull out with these two CVs. Let's see what happens. I'm using the right mouse button, XYZ, and I'm moving it at the tiniest amount possible. On the mouse pad I guess I'm moving it 1 millimeter, something like that. You know, I could use the nudge keys. I should be using the nudge keys. Okay, so this one has got to go up. We'll try to get that out. Okay, so we're within point 1. A couple of little details to take care of. So once again, that's done in real time. I'm recording, and it's always difficult when you're trying to think of recording and modelling, so it's taking me longer than it would normally take me, but nevertheless, you know, it hasn't taken very long. Let's switch on that surface, and we'll put zebra stripes on it just to evaluate it. You can see that it's a beautiful surface, as we would expect. We can put stripes on the whole rig now, and we can see that everything flows, and the surface, you know, the highlights flow beautifully through the surface there. So this video then has been about how to check the boundaries of your surface before you go on to build the next surface in Class A. Everything has to be perfect, otherwise it just doesn't work. and how to use the cross-section editor as a tool to help you get close to the mesh. I hope that you found my video interesting and educational, and I thank you very much for taking the time to watch it. Thank you.